Hello and welcome to the 28th webinar in 12D's Industry Solutions webinar series. My name is Lisa Stewart and I'm the Marketing and Communications Coordinator at 12D Solutions. Before we get started, you might like to download the handout from the Handouts section. Today's webinar, Transform Your Life, It's Time to Embrace the Flexible Working Environment, will be presented by Mitch McPherson, who does inside sales for 12D Synergy. Mitch has a marketing and agriculture background, and his fresh ideas at 12D Synergy have been vital to our concept of helping customers bring flexibility to their working lives. Today we'll discuss how to unchain yourself from your desk. We're in the midst of an infrastructure boom. We're seeing pressures on consultancies mount as they attempt to meet the demand. As more projects are awarded, civil designers and drafters are taking on larger and larger workloads, which means longer hours stuck in the office away from friends and family. It's time for the system to change. This webinar will show you how to embrace and deploy a modern flexible working system that will transform your career and your organization. Say goodbye to long hours chained to the desk in your office. Over to you, Mitch.
Thanks, Lisa, and hello to everyone. Today, obviously, I'm going to talk to you about embracing the flexible working environment, as Lisa just said. I'm very passionate about this subject. To give you a bit of a backstory, if I was to go all the way back to my first steps into my career, and they were thanks to flexible working. I was studying in Albury. I was working as a farmhand near Wagga, and the opportunity came up to take on a marketing internship in Melbourne. And I'm the type of person that says yes to something and then they'll work it out later. So flexible working systems were the only way that I could juggle everything. With these systems in place, it meant that I only needed to be in the Melbourne office for kind of 2 days a fortnight, and the rest of the time I could work from home, continue my studies, and not have to give up my job. So flexible working has been a big part of my career from the very beginning, and so I'm really excited to talk to you guys about it today. I'm not alone on the call today, so live with me I've got Joel Gregory. He's the General Manager of 12D Solutions, for those who haven't met him before. He'll talk us through flexible working from a management perspective. I also caught up with Steve Hodgson. He's the Director of LDEng, and we spoke about his experiences with flexible working over his career. He's been in the industry about 16 years. And now how LDEng have flexible working as a core part of their business culture today. So it's a really interesting bit of an interview we do there. So one of my favourite parts about working for 12D is that I get to hear from our clients and industry members quite a bit. So please feel free to use the comments bar as we go along. We can start here. If anyone out there is attempted to implement flexible working, let us know what systems you've put in place to allow flexible working. Are you making copies of files and taking them home? You might have a VPN, you might be using Dropbox. Let us know. And while we're going along today, in the back of your mind, just think about what your biggest setbacks were, what the biggest pain points of that system is, and hopefully we can address them today. So a bit of housekeeping. What do we mean by flexible working? Well, flexible working can mean a number of things. It could be collaborating while you're commuting to the office, or working while you're out with a client in their office. You might be working in a JV office and collaborating back to HQ. You might be working on a project from a remote office. You can adapt your hours around in the office around your personal commitments. You might have days that you work from home. So there's so many scenarios that come under flexible working. To clear things up, we aren't necessarily talking about shutting up shop and working from home 100% of the time. So a study in the UK stated that around 80% of us want flexibility, but it's actually very few of us want to be isolated completely at home all the time. But hey, if 100% of the time you're at home working works for you, that's your system, that's great. For the rest of us, probably looking for a bit of a balance, I think, would be the go. So flexibility sounds great, doesn't it? Why hasn't it really taken off in the industry? And as a general rule, the adoption has been fairly slow, with good reason. The data sets are so intensive, so the process to effectively share data, to collaborate from home, it can actually cause more problems than it solves. You can put this down to the data sets being so large, also poor network connections, and this includes VPNs. I know a lot of you have tried this without much success, so I won't rub too much salt in the wound there. There's also concerns that standards might drop off. So if you're working remotely or you might be working internationally with someone, sometimes the standards don't translate from the office to the home office. So we're talking about mismanagement of data and files. So some generic systems can corrupt data, others allow multiple collaborators to write to the same file at the same time. You might override each other's work when copying files, things like that. So there's a bit of a data integrity and version control issue that comes up. Another issue which has slowed down the adoption is, I guess, a lack of knowledge that there are solutions addressing those issues above. So I'll set a bit of an agenda for today. Essentially, we want three things that you'll take away from today's webinar. We'll discuss why flexible working is a need in today's workplace, so the benefits for both staff and for business. We'll talk about how to enable remote working from home in an efficient, user-friendly way. And Steve will also discuss a few tools which help you collaborate in a more flexible and distributed environment. So we've discussed what it is, and we've discussed why it hasn't been adopted. Well, why do you need to resolve these issues? Why do you need flexible working? And there's really two sides of benefits. There's benefits for staff and then there's benefits for the business. So you can look up endless case studies about flexible working. To summarise, if you conduct it properly, if you have the right systems in place, flexible working has great benefits. So on the staff side of things, for example, a civil designer, essentially your overall personal and professional schedule will have more flexibility. So you can leave the office early, get home when the kids do. You might arrive late from work, from the gym. You might be studying outside of work and you need to meet your obligations for that. Even when you're closing in on a deadline at work, you'll be able to make time for family, friends, sport, fitness, for example. You can move your schedule around a little bit. A big ticket item for me is that it saves money. So if you think about it, every day you avoid commuting into the office, that's more money in your back pocket. Another big one is avoiding fly in, fly out. So if you're collaborating with a team in an office in another city or state, even another country, those guys might need you to fly into the design or project office and stay for a certain amount of time. It's something that I think we can reduce and maybe even avoid with modern technologies. So that's probably from the staff perspective, and a little bit, the last one will save you money on the business side of things, but overall benefits for business on the business side of things is staff are going to be able to meet their deadlines. As we know, certain barriers come up and hurdles when working towards a deadline can slow things down, and a good flexible system allows them to run around those barriers and stay on target. So we have also seen clients who are utilising their commute to work each day to get a bit of a head start on work. So it's improving efficiency in a few different ways. One thing we probably have learnt from our clients is that flexible working also improves resource management. So what I mean by that is, there's some big jobs coming in for a particular office. You can share that workload around with a quieter office. If you're in a smaller business and you have some larger jobs coming in, you can bring contractors into the project, and it doesn't matter as much where they're actually located. You can still draw them in through remote working. It improves job satisfaction and company culture. So what you'll see that is from improving your satisfaction and company culture is you're going to be attracting the top talent. People want to work for you. You'll also improve staff retention, which will save you dollars. And we've also spoken to a range of our clients that have realised that they can actually leverage their flexible working systems as a competitive advantage. So for example, Milton Services, which is the case study attached, Paul Milton can actually now win more jobs and prove that he doesn't need to be there on site or in the design office to work with that team. He can prove that he has the right systems in place to work outside the office. So now I'll bring Joel in, and he'll talk about flexible working and how it's helped us here at 12D. Over to you, Joel.
Yeah, thank you, Mitch. Flexible working has certainly been an important part of 12D Solutions from day one. When Lee and Alan built the company back in the early 90s, rather than setting up offices in each state, outside of Sydney, they pretty much hired staff that worked home. And now, over 25 years later, most of our staff do work remotely around Australia and New Zealand. This flexibility really aligns with our culture, and it's a good perk for our staff and allows them to better juggle busy work schedule and their personal lives. So for many office-bound staff such as myself, we're still on the road a lot, so we're constantly travelling, and being able to access our data and documents whilst on the road has been a really important factor for us. So similar to our clients, a lot of our data sets are really large. Think of large 12D model projects as a good case. So we use 12D Synergy internally for the last 5 years, and since its implementation, we no longer need VPNs, Dropbox, Google Drive, or anything else. So we simply connect to Synergy through Wi-Fi, or I'm normally through a mobile phone, and access the data that I need. So having systems and processes in place to enable flexible working, it also helps our bottom line. It allows us to hire the best people and not just the people who are geographically close to our office. So this is really important. We also like to share work around. When one region's quiet, we push the work to another office, another person. So it means we can keep up our highly skilled staff even through downturns. It really helps us weather the storm, which is really useful. This flexibility has also helped our staff retention, and we've had several staff now moving different cities or even interstate, and have still been able to stick with the business. So there's really some large savings there from retraining and keeping continuity for customers as well, which has a real big financial benefit too. So yeah, there are lots and lots of benefits from flexible working.
Yeah, very good. While we got you, Joel, are there any other tools? You mentioned 12D Synergy. Any other tools that probably, well, obviously I know, but to share with the viewers about what tools we use to collaborate and to help in that sense?
Yeah, well, as you said, there's 12D Synergy, and we've rolled out version 4 internally now, which is even faster, which has been great. We've also been an early adopter of Skype. I can't even remember when we didn't use Skype. So that's been great, and we've streamlined our internal comms. So we now use GoToMeeting for internal meetings and for webinars like this, and also TeamViewer as well, which is really optimized for screen sharing with customers, which has really helped on the support line, where you can just share a screen, have a look at what they're doing, and provide support over the phone. So they're probably the main tools that we've streamlined down now. Try to keep as few tools as needed, really.
Cool, thanks, mate. Moving on, you've probably caught on that essentially what we're talking about is working remotely. That's really where the flexibility is coming into it. Most civil designers, when they work remotely or from home, they tend to use these three main ways. They make copies on external hard drives and then copy files back to the server. They might share files online via hosting services, or they might access their files remotely via a virtual private network. And the pain points we were talking about before, they seem to come into play with these sorts of systems. So, your transfer times, your version control, who has the latest version, overriding each other's work. They're risks that are involved with those systems. And Steve will talk you through a few more when we get to when he joins in as well. So it's really worth noting that essentially at the core of our flexible working solution is 12D Synergy's remote access tool. So it gives you access to all your data and files as you would need them from a remote location. So you can access this primarily by the wide area network. I do this every day. You can also use the offlining method if your internet access isn't so flash hot. But in terms of transferring data, how does this address the data transfer pains you've experienced in the past? So the way we address it is the intelligent data transfer. So essentially, you connect to your 12D Synergy server, which could be based in your office or in the cloud. 12D Synergy is a check-in, check-out system. So you'll work with the files which you want to work on, and they will save down to your local workspace, which is located on your local C drive. So you'll be working locally, not across the network. 12D Synergy recognises the files which you've changed. So when you check them back in, it will only actually transfer the files you've changed back to the server. So by working off your local C drive and by only transferring the changes, you're actually pushing a lot less data down the pipe. 12D Synergy will actually save you around 91% in data transfer. So it's really good in that way. So one of our clients, I guess the proof is in the pudding, one of our clients, they did a bit of a case study internally on the savings they made on a collaborative 12D model project. So originally, every time they opened a project, as you can see on the left side, it took 13 minutes in transfer time, and every subsequent time they opened or transferred data, that would be the time. So with 12D Synergy, that initial transfer time went down to 5 minutes for the initial transfer, and all subsequent transfers were then reduced further to under a minute. So you can imagine if you're working from home, the relief and the time savings that you'd have with this system. And one thing that stood out to me was the monetary value they worked out for this. It was, to give you an idea of the project, it was a 12-week project with 6 users, and the business saved $43,000 on the project, so that's fairly impressive. Another good example is WestConnex. So Oricon actually implemented 12D Synergy on the WestConnex project, and you can see Ed Wilson's presentation on our website if you'd like more information. But he raises 2 really good points in that presentation, and one is that how much the WestConnex team were relieved to find out that 12D Synergy was going to cut down on commuting. Anyone watching this from Sydney's lately is probably really impressed with that. But also the interstate and international guys, that travel for work, cutting down on that, they really appreciated that. The other point he raised is how businesses are always striving to attract the best people and to be an employer of choice. In this day and age, he felt that it's something that can't be achieved using legacy systems, and that's something that I really agree with. It's certainly modern systems as part of an overall culture, which is going to help make your organisation a desirable destination for any potential employees. So now I'll share with you a bit of a catch-up I had with Steve from LDEng. So I thought I would bring you into this webinar because I remember the industry solutions webinar you hosted regarding quality assurance with LDEng, and I remember you referred to flexibility a bit in that. So I thought it would be good to bring you on to this and dig a little bit deeper into it. So to start with, tell us a bit about your history with flexible working.
With a couple of the companies I've worked with before, we've tried to do it, but they've got Windows Explorer as their document management system and using VPN connections. So because we were trying to connect in with VPNs for the server, it was never really great. One of their workarounds was actually to leave your computer on in the office and use a TeamViewer app to actually connect to your work computer, so that wasn't really good. The other options were kind of copy work down, take it home, do it, and bring it back, and then you had issues with people not saving stuff correctly and obviously not being able to verify versions. It became a bit of an issue, so we hardly ever did it. The downloading and uploading files through VPNs weren't great, especially if you're trying to open a 12D model project. It took a really long time. once you had everything up and running and then you wanted to save something, that also slowed you down a fair bit because you're still communicating across the network and so forth. Yeah. We also, even emails were pretty hard to use because they were still on a physical server, so getting access to them through a VPN was pretty slow. And same with the CAD licenses. Even just trying to start CAD up through a VPN was a bit of a nightmare because it took a long time to ping the license server and get back to you. Because of the check-in, check-out feature, you're all basically working locally on your own computer anyway, so there's not really a difference between working at home or working in the office. Yeah, so the guys can check in, check out data. We all run laptops, so they just can work wherever they want. We actually set up a external facing IP address, so we access that through our WatchGuard with logons and so forth, so we don't actually need VPN at all. Yeah, so I've just recently moved, so just got NBN put on, so now the download speeds at home are pretty much the same as working in the office. I don't really see much of a difference, whereas on the ADSL2 it was a bit slow, but we just got into the habit of checking stuff out before we left the office, but now we don't even have to do that. We can just use it as though we're in the office. The other cool thing was with the data sync, we've managed to automate the data sync stuff to get all of our CAD and 12D standards pushed to everyone's computer. So that means all of our AutoCAD profiles and user libraries for 12D are all updated in one spot. Everyone gets the updates, and so they can work anywhere. Well, we started off with 3 staff about 18 months ago, and we're up to 20 now. So it's growing fairly quickly. But yeah, we've got people that spend 1 to 2 days a week working from home, or yeah, 3 to 5 days a month sort of thing working from home. We've got one guy who takes Wednesdays. He keeps saying he takes Wednesdays off, but he's meant to be working from home on Wednesdays. And then we've got another guy who only comes in on Wednesdays and works the rest of the week at home. So because we've all got laptops and running 12D and AutoCAD with pretty good graphics cards, it doesn't really matter where we are. We can get going, and then a lot of us have got the multiple screens with docking stations set up at home or in the office, so we've got the same setup at home. And it just, yeah, it really allows a lot of the guys who've got, all of our staff who've got young kids, they can go home for dinner, put the kids to bed, and then make up a couple of hours in the evening, or others drop their kids off at school in the morning so they don't have to rush to get into work. They can make up the time later. Yeah. And then we've also got a few staff who live way out west over the West Gate, so they've got a fair bit of travel time to come in, up to an hour to get into work. So if they can come in a bit later or just work from home a bit more often, it makes it easier for them. I go swimming most mornings and come in around 10 and leave about 5:30 and do a couple of hours each night, so it's sort of pretty flexible. But we've found it a little tricky at times to coordinate teams when people are all over the place, but we've got through that. We use Skype for Business, and you can share screens, and that helps us coordinate our teams when not everyone's in the one office. So there's also some of our PMs that are running Surface Pros and hooking them up with their phones or Wi-Fi. It's been really handy in meetings with clients where we go meet with them, and then we've got access to all of our project data, and also do your minutes on the fly in the meeting, or pull up any of the PDFs and documents directly from the project, and not have to sort of spend all that time pulling data down before you go to a meeting. I think yeah, the main benefit though is we've got a lot of fairly big workloads and time pressures, so if people are able to set their own schedule a bit, it helps suit them. Then they can focus on what they need to do and not stress on having to be at work 9 to 5 every day, especially with the industry running as hot as it is at the moment. There's pressure from all angles to get everything done, so the easier we make it for our staff, the more trust we put in them, the better they perform.
Thanks again there to Steve for taking the time out for a bit of a catch-up. So moving on now, Lisa, we got any questions come through?
Thanks, Mitch. There's I'll just do a couple because we're getting a little close to time. We had a contact in a remote regional area up in Emerald actually wants to talk about organising a catch-up up there. Is that something you can talk us through, Mitch?
Yeah. So we can run a meeting via GoToMeeting, which is similar to this webinar, and we'll be able to show you Synergy in action and have a bit of a chat that way if you're interested, mate. That's actually a really good point. I'll address that later, actually, in the webinar. That's a really good one.
Sure, thanks. Sam in Brisbane said, I have a dodgy internet connection at home. Will I still be able to use 12D Synergy to work from home?
Yes. So like you just heard from Steve, what he used to do, so he would check the files out onto his laptop while he was in the office. He'd work on them from home, and then he'd check the files back in from home. So he's only transferring the data one way. So the data that I guess is already reduced with 12D Synergy, he's then halving that essentially because he's only going one way. So you can use that offlining method also to work on your, so that's the other way, to work on your files in Synergy that way. So there's a few ways to go about it, yeah. But yeah, you can do it certainly.
Great. Ben in Sydney would like to know, I work for a small business. We've only got 3 designers. Is 12D Synergy going to work for us or be worth it for us?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And one thing you'll find with 12D Synergy is that it actually, we've had clients, it's actually helped their business grow. So many of our clients started off as small consultants, like Steve just there, as he said, they started off with 3 staff, and I can't remember what it was, might be 2 or 3 years on, and they've got 20. And the case study actually attached today is Milton Services, which is Paul Milton. He's a one-man band. So yeah, it's fairly scalable from, you know, single man operation right up to the larger consultancies.
Thanks. So we'll just take one more question live today, I think. Pete from Brisbane said, we have strict IT standards. Will 12D be able to meet those guidelines?
Yeah, short answer is yes, it will be fine. We probably need to catch up with you, mate, and have a bit of a chat, but we have resources available for support for your guys in IT, I should say, to help them out. But that's kind of a question we get from the larger guys. So we've got WSP, you saw Oricon quote here, AECOM, Cardno, Jacobs are all using 12D Synergy, and there's a few others out there. So I'm certain that we'll be able to meet your IT standards. But yeah, like we said, it's probably the best way to go about it is I'll reach out to you and have a chat.
Great. Thanks for that, Mitch. I'll let you finish off your thoughts there, and then we'll wrap things up after that.
All right, thank you. So where to next? Well, it's time for you to embrace the flexibility, I guess. 12D Synergy, it can reduce your risk that you have involved with these legacy systems. You can, create a collaborative environment and introduce some flexibility into your career and into your life. So I want you to be able to see it firsthand how the system can adapt to your workplace. So today, those who have been to our webinars before usually run a little bit of a demo, but we don't have time for that today. Today, you can use the comment box on the side. If you just simply write the word demo, we'll reach out to you and organise an obligation-free time for you to see how 12D Synergy works. And as I said before, location's no barrier, so we can organise it no matter where you are. You can also email us at sales@12dsynergy.com.
Thanks, Mitch, and thanks to everyone for the questions you've sent through. I'm sorry we couldn't get to all of those live, but we'll be getting back to people individually by email as soon as possible. And thanks to those who are punching in demo there. Oops, it's going crazy at the moment. We'll get back to you shortly. The recordings of this webinar will be available in coming days through our website and our YouTube channels as per our usual format. Our next Industry Solutions webinar will be Reducing Rework in Engineering, Design and Construction Projects on the 2nd of November, so very soon actually, next week. Register for that one now if you haven't already. That concludes our presentation for today. Thank you everyone for attending, and don't forget to contact us for your obligation-free demo or keep those comments rolling in the questions section. Thanks again.